Up until now, we've only been using one form of selection inside of Illustrator, but in this movie, we want to expand on that a bit and start to explore a new tool called the Direct Selection tool. So we've been working with the regular selection tool all this time. It's the black arrow that we've been using to click on stuff and to drag things around the canvas and stuff like that. But now let's grab this tool right next to it, the Direct Selection tool, which you can do by clicking on it or simply pressing the letter A on your keyboard. You'll know that you have the Direct Selection tool selected because it is white as opposed to black. So it's got a little white arrow tip on it as opposed to a black arrow tip. You will also notice that when you make a selection with the Direct Selection tool, so if I were to click anywhere on this path right here, that all of the anchor points of that path actually start to show up. So this is a closed shape as we discussed earlier. So I've got anchor points here, 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 and here. You'll notice as I hover over them with the Direct Selection tool, the anchor points sort of grow in appearance, indicating where they are so that it's easier for me to select them when and if I want to start manipulating them. So why would I want to use the Direct Selection tool? Well, if you do a lot of hand drawing inside of Illustrator, or if you prefer to create shapes without holding down the Shift key, things like that, you might have to manipulate the anchor points after you've drawn something in order to get the final look that you're going for. I like to put it that we want to get about 95% of the way there with our initial drawing in Illustrator, and then we use tools like the Pen tool and the Direct Selection tool to go that last 5%. So for this circle right here, for instance, I could select one of these anchor points. And when I select one of those anchor points by clicking on it, you'll notice that several of the control handles become active as well. These are all of the control handles that are connected to the two paths that run through this anchor point. So the control handle here runs from here to here, the control handle here, and the path runs from here to here. So I have the ability to control the appearance of both sides of the top of this circle. You can also select multiple anchor points at a time. So I could actually hold down the Shift key and click this anchor point. You can see now that I get even more anchor points illuminated down here. I can hold down the Shift key and click this one, hold down the Shift key and click this one. As I start to select all of them, the anchor points are going to remain highlighted, but the control handles are going to go away because there's no way for me to simultaneously manipulate all of the control handles at once. So in this case, let's click away and let's click back on this top one here. And let's take a look at how these control handles actually work. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to take this control handle. You'll notice when you get next to it, it'll actually say handle. Just click on that and drag it in just a little bit. You'll notice as you drag it in that the bottom part actually starts to bow out because this is all connected. So as this dips in, that bulges out. That's because the control handle, and you can see it when I click right here on this anchor point, the control handle is pretty much linked with itself. So as I rotate it around, the other side just sort of rotates accordingly, like so. Now, if and when you need to change anything you've done, you can just press Command or Control Z on the keyboard to get it back to normal. You can also manipulate different sides of a control handle independently of the other side, but you have to use a modifier key in order to do that. So let's say that I just wanted to make this part sort of curve inward and I don't want this bottom part to bulge out. What I'm going to do is just hold down the Option key on the Mac, the Alt key on the PC, and click and drag in. You'll notice as I do that, the other handle appears, but it is not changing in appearance whatsoever. I've broken the link between them. So now they operate completely independent of one another. I could do the same thing for the other anchor point. So if I click here and manipulate this one, holding down the Option or Alt key, actually you don't even have to hold down the Option or Alt key once it's broken. So that is allowing me to swing that in and out anytime I want. I could take this one up here at the top and start to do the same thing, but you notice it also is linked. So in this case, what I'll do is undo that with Command or Control Z, and then let's hold down that Option or Alt key, and let's kind of curve it inward like so. So you can see I'm changing the shape of this circle completely just by manipulating these little anchor points. You can also select anchor points and move them around. So if I click this anchor point, for instance, I can reposition it anywhere I want on the artboard. And when I let go, everything just follows along with it. I can also take this one. Let's move it down just a little bit. And you'll notice sometimes you make a mistake, kind of folds things in on each other. Just hit Command or Control Z if that happens to you. There you go. You'll also notice as I approach the outer portion of a path while I have an anchor point selected, I get that same sort of curved segment look that I had when I was working with the pen tool earlier when we were manipulating shapes. It works just the same way. Click and drag, and you can manipulate these and add curved segments to pretty much anything you want, just like so. Now, again, if you wanted to get back to your original, you just hit Command or Control Z until you get back to your original circle. So the direct selection tool is definitely a tool that I use on a regular basis. It's one that really gives you that granular level of control where you can get in and you can dial in every little teeny tiny aspect of your design. So if you've got paths that don't really fit with one another, if you've got a curve that you need to refine or a straight line you need to straighten up, these are all of the little tools that you need to use to do that. Anchor points, control handles, and the direct selection tool. That's how you get the most control over your artwork.